To part 7 of my evidential research document in relation to the Satanic Temple United Kingdom Company, which irrefutably links an international system of government fraud tied to the taxation system to a satanic cult and a very likely infiltration of all faith groups as an international collaborative deception to create a risk of conflict and division. It deliberately exploits and victimizes billions of people through financial matters, but also facilitates all of the world's crimes and problems, including international conflicts and terrorism offences, but also crimes against the most innocent of all, children, through their abuse, torture and murder. We were looking at Harrods and that tying in with potentially the death of Princess Diana and King Charles. And we're just looking at the Ritz Hotel, which is where she was prior to the her death, if she died, of course. That's a fraudulent criminal company. So continuing with Mohammed Al Fayed, and please research and corroborate this information. So we've come in from Harrods Limited, found Mohammed Al Fayed, and he links to football companies. Bearing in mind what we've just been talking about in the last part, football's a huge part of the satanic cult and the international deception. And on the right, he's also linked to FL Property Management Limited. And here's that company. And you see it has an address of Fulham Football Club training ground. It started up in 1998, 3 years before the World Trade Center disaster. And it has Jordan's Limited on its incorporation document, which means it's a criminal, fraudulent entity company, because that company is now trading as Vistra Limited. And when you look at its incorporation document, it actually has Hammerplag on it, which has never been registered. That is a crime by our government in the forgery of the company registration system. So wherever you see Jordan's Limited or Jordan's and Sons is fraud, and the illegality continues through. So it's a criminal, fraudulent entity company. Within FL Property on the right, Claire Wilson links to De La Rue Quest Limited. Now, De La Rue is the main currency producer for the world. It's based in Hampshire. It also has fraudulent criminal entity companies, and it links very, very quickly to the Flemings, who are the ones that initiated my removal for refusing to file forged bank documents. And remember, this all ties in, as I've said, to the satanic cult. And it's a criminal, fraudulent entity company with Jordan's Limited on there. De La Rue also links very, very quickly to the World Trade Center disaster within 3 companies, I believe, of the one of the supposed flights or airline companies that flew into the building. But it is all tied into this fraud, without a shadow of a doubt. I am almost guaranteeing you that those buildings were brought down as part of this satanic international government fraud. Also, many of the other terrorist attacks that you believe have been by certain faith groups have been linked now to the same companies and now this satanic cult. This includes the bombings in London in 2005 on the buses, the bombings at the Nova Music Festival on the 23rd of October 2023 in Israel, the bombings in Manchester. It's all a satanic, staged, collaborative deception tying into this fraud by a very small group of people on the scale of things. Claire director also links to British America Tobacco Quest Limited Company, which is also criminal, fraudulent company. And I've shown that because that's a good example of them causing a problem, reacting, and then providing a solution. So they cause the health issues. They then say they've got a solution, and then, of course, request more money from you to pay for that solution and defraud you through this system of crime and fraud. It's evil. It's satanic. There's no motive to stop the world's problems, is there, with this in place? They're also linked, Claire, the same director, to Sky Sports. So I'm just showing you an example. There's a lot more, but of course, there's only so much I can show. And this shows you, again, the connection to the sports industry, but also the control and flow of information. All mainstream media is compromised by this. All social media platforms, all newspapers have been completely centralised and controlled by this satanic fraud. Claire also links to G4S Holdings. That's very important because that is Group 4 Security, one of the largest, if not the largest, security firm in the world. And here's G4S Holdings 102. And you can see the various name changes. In fact, it changed its names twice in 1999, 2 years before the 2 years, before the World Trade Center disaster. Now, 1999 is the year of the re-establishment of the Church of Satan after its founder died in 1997. So this all ties in, you see. It's also the same year, I can't remember whether it's Vladimir Putin became the president. He either became the president in 1999 of Russia or 2000, I can't remember. But Vladimir Putin is part of all of this international collaborative deception and fraud. And that is a criminal fraudulent entity company. Now, Group 4 Security, I believe, was actually one of the reasons I left the police unknowingly, because Theresa May closed loads of police stations, and we couldn't do our job. She reduced the numbers by 20,000 police officers, and my heart just was not in the job, so I left as a result of it. And I suspect what they were doing is contracting out through Group 4 Security and defrauding the public through the taxation in relation to that company. And it's very important because Dorset, as you know, is clearly a very important location in relation to all of this. And this was a guy that I used to work with. It's not very clear because it's a screenshot from my rapid response evidence. Jock Condon. And you can see here, he's in a sheriff's outfit and he went to be close protection, I believe, in the Middle East, which now makes sense. Jock Condon. And also here we have Paul Leslie Condon, who was a lord linked to the House of Lords. And he was one of the chief constables. In fact, he was the chief for the Metropolitan Police. And he was a director here for the Association of Chief Police Officers. Now, this makes an immediate link to the Flemings via this address in Tavistock Square in London, because their company is also linked to Tavistock Square. And in fact, that, I believe, is where the bombings happened on the buses in 2005, which all ties in and links back in to Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited. So, but when you look at, and I haven't shown it here, but when you look at Leslie Condon, Paul Leslie Condon, the former chief constable of the Metropolitan Police, he is linked to Group 4 Security, which is linked to the fraud, and he's also linked to BAE Systems, which is the largest defence contractor for the United Kingdom, and they were supplying and involved with who was it? David Cameron for the supply of believe it was Typhoon jets to the Middle East. This all links in to this international fraud and a deception against the masses to exploit and victimise them. And look when Lord Condon was born, 1947, which is the year the United Nations signed the petition that led to the Israel-Arab War in 1948. Now, Jock Condon was a guy that was very sociable, and I used to socialise with him. And we went out a lot and went into a club one night, and there was Prince William dancing in the club. I remember policing an event, and King Charles, at the time was Prince Charles, landed in a helicopter, and one of my colleagues, Kate Robury, at the time, went and had a private flight in his helicopter. Now, it all makes sense because they were affiliated, okay, and I suspect they're imposter. I suspect the king is not a real king. I suspect he's an imposter, and he's tied very closely to the Flemings as part of this international government fraud. So going back to Turk and Connell, you can see Gavin McEwen on the left there, links to the Charity Law Association on the right. Remember, charities are a huge part of this because the Freemasons use a false charitable front to entice people, and then they're laundering the money. Pretty much all of the companies, charitable companies, are fraudulent entities or linked to the fraud. And now you find links via that already to royal family connections again. So Prince's Exchange Foundation, and then Edinburgh International Festival Society. Edinburgh is very important. Remember, this is where the world's oldest Freemason lodge that's still active is based. It's also where the Scottish Rite Freemasons are based, and I suspect key people are high-level Scottish Freemasons, including John Fleming, who is Deborah Fleming's husband, including Douglas Dougie Smith, who is the special advisor for the last few prime ministers and started fever sex parties and is linked to Ghislaine Maxwell via the research and was involved in security of the Middle East and oil fields and has been arrested for threats to kill, and according to Nadine Dorries, practices the dark arts. He's the special advisor, everybody, for the last few United Kingdom prime ministers. I also suspect that Gerald McCann, who was born in Dumbarton, is also a high-level Freemason, and obviously that's Madeleine McCann's father. On the left, Douglas Connell links to, on the right, the Prince's School of Traditional Arts, the Prince's Foundation for Building Community. Now, all of these companies are featuring now, coming in from other angles, including the falsified Iona prophecy that I believe is a deception I was being led to. And these incorporation documents have Allen and Overy on them, which tie into the research very significantly to the missing Nicola Bulley, and the evidence from that ties back into BAE Systems and international fraud all the way throughout. And then I believe very important evidence suggesting or overwhelmingly now supporting that the real threat from these people is within the directed energy, within the mobile, within the communication systems, the cell towers, etc. On the incorporation document for that company we're just looking at, just to show you some other royal connections, a company there, the Prince of Wales Institute of Architecture. And on the right, another royal associated company, the Prince's Regeneration Trust. Remember, what they're doing through the system of crime is they're able to filter tax contributions through government contracts related to these criminal fraudulent entities. The banks are then assisting by producing falsified documents, bank documents. I know this because I found them within Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited, and obviously that was part of the evidence behind it. The police then inadvertently confirmed in 2 emails that they were allowing those banks to, forged bank documents to be produced by the banks and used in circulation. They also leaked information to the people who are named as prime suspects, Deborah Fleming and John Fleming, because of their connections to an accountant called Carter and Coley at 3 Durrant Road was their address, which then linked into everything and the fraud. So we know the police are allowing this. They're all involved, unfortunately, in the police. Of course, there will hopefully be some that aren't, but I am getting information that anyone that joins the Freemasons at a very low level know what they're part of. So, you know, I'm hoping I can't be the only innocent police officer in this, surely. But this company started in December 2001, 3 months after the World Trade Center disaster. And it's got Allen and Overy again on its incorporation document. Further down on the document, you have a director called Jarvis, surname Jarvis, and other connections here via another director to the Prince's Foundation and the Television Corporation Limited. Remember, the entertainment industry is very important in relation to their manipulative control of humanity and the suppression against them. Sinister suppression, causing psychological issues and physical issues, okay? Depression, anxiety, through their control and subliminal messages and programming through the technology. This is all true, everybody. Go and research MK Ultra and you'll see. Loads of other companies feature on the incorporation document, mainly Jarvis hotel companies. I'm just showing how they all link into the fraud very quickly. European Rail Company, is that? Prince's Trust again, Action. Apollo Leisure, I believe. Prince's Trust. Prince's Youth Business. Prince's Foundation. All connected to that same company. They're also linked to the same director we're looking at, the King's Foundation. That links throughout the fraud. Here's the King's Foundation. Started in October 2007, the same year that Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited started. Changed its name, you can see, as I'm reporting the fraud in 2023, because it removes the accountability and liability again for the company. And on the incorporation document, you can see other connections to the royal family. Duchy Originals Limited, the Queen Elizabeth II Golden Jubilee Trust. Golden Jubilee Events Limited. So this is worth trillions in fraud. Same director links to Hampshire Cultural Trust, which is the same company in the Iona Prophecy document. On the right, Thomas Wright links to the National Museum of the Royal Navy. This is really important now because this is based in Hampshire, in Portsmouth. Remember, this is where Deborah Fleming was the chief executive for the NHS for Hampshire, Isle of Wight and Dorset, in charge of a £700 million budget and 10,000 staff. Okay, at the time I was making inquiries, she then appeared to resign at that point from that position and was brought in to instigate my removal as a director because they realised where it was heading and they needed to file the forged bank documents. Now, they were appointed in December 2022 as I was making reports to the authorities of the obvious evidence of the fraud through Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited. Now, on that incorporation document for that company further down, and you can see the page numbers here, 43 of 45, you have very relevant links now being made because you have connections via Professor John Craven to the Board of Universities. First of all, universities are all linked into this fraud as well, but the Board of St. Luke's Church of England. Now, you'll see in my End of the World document that John Fleming connects to St. Luke's Church Ecclesiastical. Okay? Remember, John Fleming is Deborah Fleming's husband. You also, below that, you can see the Archbishop's Council of the Church of England. So now we make links to Archbishops and Church of England, and below that, Portsmouth Cathedral and Canterbury Cathedral. So we now have links to the Archbishop of Canterbury, who resigned in 2024 as I was exposing everything, and that ties in to very sinister crimes against humanity. Further down, you can see Board of New Theatre Royal Portsmouth, Board of Drug Safety Research. This is another thing, problem, reaction, solution. So what they're actually involved in, and I've got evidence suggesting this and supporting this, that they're facilitating the international drug trafficking trade, and then they're using the rehabilitation to say to the public, we've got a drug problem, we need to fix it, we need more money to deal with the drugs rehabilitation and all of the connected problems that come from that. Remember, it's satanic, it's evil what they're doing. Cause the problem, react, and then cause the falsified solution to defraud the masses. You can see all the universities under that. So this company is based in Portsmouth and it's linked to the military. Okay, so the National Museum of the Royal Navy, to the Royal Navy. And on there, when you look at the people record, Donna Jones is a director, or was a director. Born in 1977, same year as me. And Donna Jones was a counsellor, but also she is the Police and Crime Commissioner for Hampshire and Isle of Wight. And you can see she resigned in March 2023 from that company. As I'm continuing the exposure, they're panicking. Probably a lot of people, I mean, who are they going to trust now? If they really think they can trust other Freemasons who are part of a secret society, they are now all in serious trouble, okay? Because they don't know who to trust. How can you trust people if they've got a criminal, deceptive financial system? You can't. The trust is gone as soon as you lose the trust. There's no foundation for a relationship. So these people will be panicking, running around. They're not going to know who to trust. They're all probably talking about how we can save each other. Do we go into tunnel systems? Well, I've got evidence they're going to be flooded, okay, and kill you all. Go and take that chance if you really want, okay? The only way out of this is through truth, transparency, repentance, and a commitment to work together to change this and bring about heaven on earth. Okay, so Donna Jones, the Police and Crime Commissioner for Hampshire and Isle of Wight. She was also connected to these companies: Portico, Shipping Company. Remember, the international child trafficking will involve very likely children being put in shipping containers, children taken from conflicts, okay, and from the care service, because they're using fraudulent documents to remove children from the care service. But I think a lot of these poor children will be from third world countries, and the genocides that they're part of to steal those children, then ship them around the world, including to the United Kingdom, as part of this satanic and sadistic addiction they have with the blood, the sex trafficking, the sex trade, the drugs that will come with it. And most of these people aren't even going to be thinking rationally because of all the substances they're taking, because the drugs trade's connected to it. On the right, Donna Jones was connected to the Victory Energy Supply Limited Company. Remember, we spoke about the international energy industry is a massive part of this fraud. All utility companies are part of it, and it's very likely that energy should be free. But the satanic side of things means they want to cause suffering and control everybody and manipulate everybody and cause all these awful things to humanity. On the left, you can see the company dissolved in 2023 as I was exposing it. It's also, Donna was linked to the Royal Marines Museum Company. So many military are going to be implicated in this. The police, every government organisation is implicated and part of this. All of them, social services, the health service, every single organisation is compromised by this. The legal system has been set up without a shadow of a doubt now around this specifically, which is why you have centralised. Even one of my best friend's wife is part of this, and I'm going to expose the evidence on that. Emma Ailing. They've had the chance to do the right thing. So on the left here, Donna Jones, just to confirm, she was a Conservative politician who has been Hampshire Police and Crime Commissioner since 2021. She was the youngest member of the judiciary, all compromised in England and Wales, when appointed to be a magistrate in 2005. So on the right, here's Donna Jones. Everyone have a good look at these people. Massively compromised by the Freemasons' satanic system in place, causing suffering to billions. So remember, we've got this connection to Hampshire Police and Crime Commissioner, and this ties in now with the evidence around the Rapid Response Team, or the information, shall we say, with the Rapid Response Team. And here's Mikey P, and the evidence linked back into my wife's family, and I've done a whole document on this. Now, for starters, none of them are using their real names, okay? This is a big part of what they're doing. They're using false names, okay? Why? Why would you use a false name unless you're trying to hide something? Also connected to the Rapid Response Team. Now, remember, we've already mentioned the Rapid Response Team because of the link to the royal family, to the Olympic Games and football companies, tying to MK Ultra, linking to David Beckham, back into my wife's family in Dorset. And Trevor Meelan was leading the Rapid Response Team at one point. Here's a picture of him on one of Bannerman's videos. Bannerman has come in and tried to undermine my evidence, trying to say I'm potentially a Freemason, even though I'm exposing the Freemasons, trying to say I had a Freemason ring on when it's not a Freemason ring. And they clearly had been collaborating with my wife's family to try and use that to undermine me. It's not worked, everybody. So Trevor Meelan links to the international government fraud, to Falcon companies, back into Barbara Kahan. And if you search Finchley Road fraud, you'll find an article from 2019, again, all tying in with the fake outbreak of COVID and the real threat of directed energy. So I was directed towards Trevor Meelan by Lisa's dad, and I've redacted his name here, but you can see some correspondence between Lisa's dad and I. This was September 2023 on the right. You can see it. Just a little bit of a mention here, and I'm starting to release my evidence. And on the right there, you can see on the 23rd of September, he writes, might be worth sending your info to these guys. Now, that was a video talking about the Rapid Response Team, but it was actually Trevor Meelan when he was part of the Transparency Task Force. And you can see Lisa's dad then deleted the video, it appears, when they realised I was making all of these connections, because I was unable to download it. On the right here, you can see a message with him saying, have you sent your info to David Laity? Now, David Laity links through Company's House very quickly to Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited. So does Lisa's dad and many members of my wife's family. So they were trying to get me to contact this group. You can see here, plus he's an ex-CID. Have you contacted the Financial Conduct Authority with your info? They're also part of the fraud. And I responded here. There's a lot more correspondence, but I'm just showing some of it. 25th September 2020, I've sent a message to David Laity on Twitter and through his Action for Justice website. I do, however, have suspicions that he will be there to divert attention away from the police. And another message now. I'd made some connections to Russia. So this is Lisa's dad asking, after I sent the link, can you find a direct link? And I put links. There are links somewhere to Temple, working on it slowly. Then they arranged a birthday do, okay, deliberately right near where my sister lives. I suspect that was deliberate. And when we were at that do, I'd already been fed information and I believe trying to scare me off with Lisa's brother supposedly being in a relationship with someone connected to Bournemouth Football Club. Now, Anthony Roberts worked for Bournemouth Football Club and they knew that. I suspect they were trying to make those connections and making me worry to prevent the exposure of the evidence. And after we left this trip away, they had positioned a Russian doll with a little cutout picture of Vladimir Putin's face on the Russian dolls. And I picked it up. It was deliberately positioned by the front door as we were leaving. And as we were walking out, I picked it up and they laughed at me for even mentioning it. So they were trying, I believe, to scare me off. This is correspondence between Trevor Meelam and I, just some of it. And I tried sending him the evidence and he tried convincing me that not all companies that have an off-the-shelf originated from the Finchley Road are corrupt. I have one that was transferred over that had sat dormant for years, didn't even know it had come from there, but took over to make live to put in court papers. He then gave me Laura Nina's telephone number, which we're going to come to in a minute, because this ties in with Donna Jones. So he tried getting me to contact Laura Nina, who was also part of the rapid response. And I sent the evidence then in relation to the link to the vaccines, all tying into this forged criminal companies. All the vaccine companies are criminal, fraudulent, with no accountability and liability, deliberately by the government. And he put, don't do COVID or vaccines. Now, I was then put in contact with a lady called Liz Watson, and I am going to name everybody until this gets resolved suitably. I'm sorry, but the exposure has to be maximum exposure now. All police forces are ignoring the evidence, 650 members of parliament. So when there's children at stake, there is no holds barred and there needs to be full disclosure. So Liz Watson and I had correspondence. This was after I had been told or advised by Trevor to contact her. She also links to Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited very quickly through the Company's House records. And they tried to convince me to stop mentioning adrenochrome, the blood taken from the poor children, even though there was obvious evidence. And you can see here, it's futile focusing on adrenochrome, Gary. Trust me, it's old news. I'm told you're losing audience because of it. It's generating money to harm people by evicting them from their homes and committing serious financial crimes. So it's vital to focus on the financial crimes and the illegal, property and land grab happening every 25 minutes. And that's because Trevor Meelam was focusing on that as part of the rapid response. They were trying to distract me and deviate me away from the real problem onto that. A lot of people reading on, a lot of people are already screaming loud for children, and most have ended up dead at the youngish age. Okay, so they're trying to scare me and stop me from mentioning it. She then mentioned Sabine McNeill and making connections to the Hampstead child abuse, saying she actually knew Sabine McNeill and had met her and had gone to the prison in relation to her. This was July 2024, 23rd of July 2024, as I'm starting to make all of these connections to the adrenochrome. And if we quickly go right back to the beginning of the document, you can see the company, the Satanic Temple United Kingdom, and it dissolved on the 2nd of July 2024, as I'm making the obvious links to the blood taken from children, times of torture, and then their murder. So you can see this all is now tying in where they're panicking with the connections being made, and they, I believe, dissolved this company as a result. Come back for the next part, please. Thank you very much.